It all starts with the memory of a day when our protagonist saw something for the first time. This is Yi Fan, a young man who looks surprised as he gazes up in the middle of a forest. What he's watching are several beautiful and skilled girls fighting intensely in the night sky. They use incredible powers to defeat demons and purify the cursed bodies. Then, one of the young women warns the others to be careful of the dangerous cadaver flame that has appeared. But unfortunately, one of the fighters is hit head-on by this dark power and ends up injured. Seeing this, her companion screams in despair the name of her older sister who is falling. Angrily, one of the warriors glares at the skull of evil energy and vows she will not forgive it. Next, the young woman prepares to attack with a talisman, calling the monster a cursed demon. Meanwhile, our protagonist hides in the grass, lamenting that he's just an ordinary guy. He complains that he's only on Dragon Mountain to help his brother find an antidote for a poison. We find out the young man's name is Yi Fan, and he was reincarnated into this world 3 years ago after an accident. In his new world, he has no cheat codes and watches a fight between a spider and a scorpion. Furthermore, the young man has no systems or talent for cultivation, being a normal person. Luckily, an old man from a pharmacy took him in, and since then he has survived by gathering herbs. Unlike other reincarnators, he has to beg the giant spider not to attack him. The protagonist then starts running desperately, shouting that he deserves respect for being a transmigrator. In the middle of his escape, an attack from the creature launches him far away with absurd force. With that, the boy despairs as he realizes he's falling from a cliff, cursing his bad luck. After a long fall, he wakes up in a dark place and wonders where he ended up. The protagonist wakes up and is surprised to realize he survived the fall from the cliff. He then finds himself hanging upside down in a very strange and confusing position. Just then, the young man recognizes the rare flower stuck on the branch right in front of him. His surprised expression shows how lucky he was to find what he was looking for. With these flowers in hand, the boy can finally create the antidote his brother needs. With a smile on his face, he celebrates because he'll be able to suppress Shu Dafyu's cadaver poison. But suddenly, a mysterious female voice calls out to him, completely surprising him. Right after, the owner of the voice gets close to his ear and compliments his pleasant scent. Startled, the protagonist screams and asks who the woman is that appeared out of nowhere on top of him. With a smile, the young woman says he invaded her home but that she really liked his appearance. Her red eyes and expression reveal that she is not human and has bad intentions. The boy gets flustered and compliments her, so she asks if he would be willing to do something more. At that moment, her forked tongue appears as she prepares to make a request. Suddenly, her body begins to transform in a very bizarre and frightening way. She reveals herself to be a horrible monster and screams that she is going to devour him without any mercy. Without a second thought, Yi Fan hits her with his axe while screaming desperately. The creature is startled that he dared to attack her, and the young man is surprised he actually hit her. Furious, the monster woman says that even in her weakened state, she is not someone a mortal can face. Then she lunges to devour him, but the young man shouts that he won't allow it and decides to fight. However, in the midst of the chaos, something catches the protagonist's attention, and he wonders what it is. A green flame skull appears, and Yi Fan wonders if it's a natural disaster. Next, a huge explosion of yellow energy hits the area and throws the young man far away. In the sky, a dark silhouette threatens someone named Chu Shuang if he doesn't show up soon. The mysterious being then says that if he doesn't come out, it will destroy the entire mountain forest. Just then, the monster fighting the protagonist is hit head-on by the energy blast. Yi Fan is also caught in the attack and laments, wondering if he's going to perish again. The creature recognizes the cadaver flame and is completely disintegrated by its power. Tears begin to stream from our hero's eyes as he accepts his fate. He then complains about his bad luck and says the army of transmigrators has lost another member. The young man's tear falls and activates a system that detects the danger and initiates his cultivation base. With a notification sound, a blue screen appears in front of everything with the word, "Activating." The boy is surprised to see this interface and doesn't understand what is happening. He cries with happiness and shouts that after 3 years, his system has finally appeared. From the digital portal, a pink-haired girl emerges and introduces herself as his host. She says she is the system administrator and that the young man can call her Nine. Yi Fan stands there, frozen and speechless, while the lit administrator seems a bit embarrassed. Then Nine displays her master's stats, revealing he has a cultivation of 999 billion years. The protagonist's eyes widen in complete shock upon hearing that absurd amount. He imagines himself as an invincible hero, capable of dominating everything with his overwhelming power. He then asks the girl if, with this power, he can shatter the world with a single punch. Nine says he doesn't seem interested in her advice, so he'll have to rely on his own luck. She then says goodbye and vanishes, leaving the protagonist alone, who begs the girl not to leave. Suddenly, a sound from above catches the young man's attention, and he wonders what it could be. Just then, a woman falls right on top of our hero, who cries out from the sudden impact. In a lot of pain, the boy wonders what's happening and who fell on him. He's surprised to see it's the fairy from before and thinks the system is already giving out bonuses. All embarrassed, Yi Fan asks if she's okay because she's crushing him with her body. The young woman then stares at him, surprised that he's immortal, and says he needs to promise her something. The protagonist turns red with embarrassment, thinking that fairies are very direct about things. She then takes out a teleportation talisman and asks him to go to Tianwu City to deliver a message. But the talisman explodes in her hand to their astonishment, leaving them with no way out. At that moment, the dark being appears and taunts someone named Chu Wushuang for running for 3 days. The young man recognizes the villain's technique as the skeleton flame that almost took him out before. With a wicked smile, the monster says no one can escape its clutches and its power. Yifan braces himself to be hit again by the same deadly technique from before. And right after, the young man is completely engulfed by the enemy's green flames. However, the power hits the flower he was holding, and the boy is shocked by what happens. He despairs, thinking all his effort was in vain, and remembers his past failures. The woman then shouts the villain's name Shi Long, and says her master will not forgive him for this. The monster laughs, saying her master wouldn't dare offend his corpse bearer sect. The villain then says she can stop dreaming because no one can save her now. Suddenly, a silhouette rises from the dust, surprising everyone there. Yifan questions him about burning the flower, and Shi Long calls him an ant and asks if he wants to be done for. With a confident smile, the young man decides to show who the real ant is and activates his system. Immediately, a screen appears in front of him, and a powerful demon mode is activated. At that moment, a red and evil aura surrounds the protagonist's body, changing his appearance. Both the young woman and the villain are completely shocked by this sudden transformation. Next, a huge wave of dark energy explodes in all directions with great force. The fairy is thrown far away, not understanding how he was a normal person just moments ago. The enemy then feels a terrible pressure and asks what the young man did to become so strong. Our hero reminds him that he called mortals ants, and that cultivators can't just do whatever they want. But the monster tells him not to come any closer, as its golden body is invincible and indestructible. Not caring about the threats, Yifan charges forward with his axe to attack the enemy directly. A scream of pain echoes through the area as the villain is struck squarely by the young man's blow. The protagonist's power is so great that the opponent can't defend himself and is thrown backward. He then says the enemy will feel the fury of a common person who is underestimated. The young woman can't believe that this mortal was able to defeat the mighty Shilong all by himself. Suddenly, blue lightning starts to fall from the sky around the motionless protagonist. The villain screams that it's impossible, because his body was indestructible, and wonders how he was hurt. With a cold gaze, Yifan moves in to deliver the final blow and tells the monster to prepare to meet its end. Shilong screams in despair as our hero slices him in half without any mercy. A powerful wave of red energy is released with the protagonist's final blow. The attack was so strong it even managed to cut an entire mountain in half. With that, the villain's body is completely destroyed by the young man's overwhelming power. Right after, Yifan's transformation ends, and he observes the fallen enemy on the ground. The young man then looks at the enormous fissure his attack created in the landscape before him. The young woman is impressed, wondering what level of cultivation is needed for such a powerful strike. Just then, the protagonist thinks about his 999 billion years of cultivation. With a funny expression, he celebrates because the feeling of power was truly incredible. But Nine appears and warns him that he used too much power, and his life has been reduced by 44 years. A screen shows that he now only has 6 years left and needs to increase his lifespan soon. Desperate, the boy yells at Nine, wanting to know why he only has 6 years to live. The little system administrator then looks at her master with an expression of pity. She reminds him that using a power beyond what his body can handle would reduce his life expectancy. Crying, he asks what benefit she gets if he passes away, since the system would end with him. However, Nine says her duty is to preserve his life, but that the system can continue on. The protagonist realizes he's been tricked and yells at the girl while the fairy watches. Then the woman approaches and thanks the senior for saving her life, leaving the young man confused. He wonders if he looks that old but decides to focus on how to increase his lifespan now. The young woman, named Wushuang, explains that she was pursued by Shilong because of a treasure. With a determined look, she says she is willing to give the treasure to the senior. But Yifan refuses the sword and tells her to keep the item, leaving the young woman surprised. Wushuang doesn't understand why he doesn't care about the treasure she protected by risking her life. Then the young man approaches her and asks if she has any longevity pills or remedies. All embarrassed, the girl replies that unfortunately, she doesn't have that kind of rare item. Disappointed, he dismisses her and says he needs to think of a solution to his problem on his own. However, she offers 5 jade toad pills that can help with his injuries. With a smile on his face, our hero celebrates because those pills will be very useful. Meanwhile, in the depths of Dragon Mountain, a mysterious place begins to glow. A red energy with several clocks appears, indicating that a major event is about to happen. Several demons watch the sky and realize that the immortal emperor's palace has appeared. The sound of a bell echoes through all the mountains, catching the attention of everyone in the region. A group of cultivators realizes the sound is coming from the direction of the Great Dragon Mountain. An old master then confirms that the emperor's palace is hidden in that location. A hooded man orders his disciples to seize the immortal emperor's inheritance. But before he can finish speaking, something interrupts him with a blast of energy. An imposing figure appears and tells the man to shut his mouth, because he hadn't spoken yet. The armored being then asks someone named Bai Kui if they have reached the mountain. The subordinate confirms that they are in the right place and that the mountain is just ahead. With a broken token in hand, the elder says that the dragon's soul was scattered there. Furious, he vows to crush whoever harmed the dragon and orders everyone to descend the mountain. Far away in Tianwu City, the morning sun begins to rise slowly on the horizon. Our protagonist finally arrives home and announces that he's back from his journey. He finds the silence strange and wonders where Dafu is as a sinister hand appears. Suddenly, a macabre voice calls to him from the shadows, startling the young man. Yifan turns around, surprised by the sound, and tries to figure out where the voice is coming from. His friend then appears and asks for help in a bizarre way, saying that he's hungry. Dafu's face is completely transformed, looking like a monster with red eyes. The creature lunges to attack the protagonist, who yells for it to get out of the way fast. At that moment, the old man from the pharmacy appears and lands a powerful punch on the monster, saving him. With his absurd strength, the old man throws the transformed boy to the ground without any difficulty. Our hero is astonished by the scene and asks Uncle Shu what he's doing there. The elder then warns him that Dafu is about to turn into a zombie and must not bite him. At that moment, the cadaver poison manifests as a giant mouth full of teeth. The protagonist charges forward with the medicine in hand and yells for his friend to wake up and take it. With a blast of energy, the young man uses the antidote and orders the poison to disperse. Dafu wakes up confused, remembering he was bitten, and Yifan says he saved him with the pill. Emotionally, his friend asks if the protagonist really used the toad pill on him. Next, Dafu hugs him tightly and shouts that his brother is going to make a fortune now. Our hero gets embarrassed and tells his friend not to get close to him without clothes, please. With that, the boy is thrown far away by the force of the young man's shout, who gets annoyed. Suddenly, a notification catches the young man's attention, and he wonders if it's the system. A blue screen shows Dafu's stats, revealing that he is a very strong cultivator. 9 appears and explains that this is an extra function to scan nearby cultivators. With a wicked smile, she says the host can disable this function if he wants. But Yifan thinks the ability is incredible and sees Uncle Shu's stats, who is of the nascent soul realm. The young man is shocked because he always thought they were just ordinary people. Now he knows they were hiding and says he will be the king of showing off. From outside, someone announces that the wife of the pharmacy owner, Ye Shuazi, has arrived. We see some strong men carrying a palanquin with great effort and difficulty. They approach the pharmacy while the townspeople watch the scene curiously. Inside the palanquin is Madame Wrong, a matchmaker and trafficker of people. The protagonist wonders where this wife came from and Dafu jokes about his taste. The woman says the young man's old guardian asked her to arrange for someone to take care of him. She shows a new batch of girls and an excited Dafu asks to be the first to choose. Embarrassed, Yifan says he doesn't want a girl because he doesn't plan on getting married or having children. But Madame Wrong says she knows he has good stuff under his pillow. Dafu laughs and asks what he's hiding, but the young man denies everything, very embarrassed. At that moment, our hero's attention is diverted to something strange near him. He looks down his own feet and wonders what that is on the ground right there. He looks at the young women but doesn't seem interested in any of them at first. Then his eyes fix on a girl with blonde hair, and he decides she's the one. The young woman lifts her head and her green eyes widen in surprise at the attention. Confused, the girl doesn't understand anything when the protagonist extends his hand to her. Yifan introduces himself and invites her to stay and help at his medicine shop. Shyly, the young woman holds onto his clothes and whispers her name, which is Joan Linger. She begs to stay and promises to do anything, so the young man agrees to her request. Dafu and the uncle comment that he said he didn't want anyone but now seems very interested. Madame Wrong laughs and asks if she should arrange for someone as beautiful as her for the two of them. Terrified, they refuse and say they are not interested in women at all. The system reveals that the girl is a chosen daughter of heaven, and the young man sees he hit the jackpot. Far away, the mountain that was cut in half glows, and some ships fly by. Shilong's master and his followers arrive at the scene to investigate what happened. Angrily, the elder picks up some of what's left on the ground and tastes the bitter flavor. His subordinates then confirm that those are Shilong's ashes and there is no body. The master uses a secret technique of his lineage to find the one responsible for the passing. A red energy emerges from his body, preparing to track the culprit. With a wicked smile, he discovers that the direction to find his target is Tianwu City. The villain laughs and vows that when he finds the one responsible, he will show them what true terror is. Back at the pharmacy, our hero calls for Linger, who seems to be adapting well. The girl, now tidied up, offers a cup of tea to Brother Yi with a gentle smile on her face. Yifan thinks that without the system, no one would guess this innocent young woman is an empress. He then offers her a cultivation book his master gave him and asks her to practice. Surprised, the young woman takes the book and asks if she can really try to learn the technique. The young man brags about having practiced for 3 years and says he can help with any questions. But as she reads the book, she advances a level, instantly shocking our protagonist. He is in shock, wondering if this is the difference between a genius and someone mediocre. Linger asks what's wrong, but he asks for a minute to calm down, disillusioned. Meanwhile, at the gates of Tianwu City, the weather changes and the sky turns dark. One of the guards points upward, frightened, and asks if the others are seeing that. In the sky, a dark and monstrous silhouette appears, to the terror of all the guards. Next, a cadaver flame attack hits one of the creatures, which screams in pain. The monster is reduced to a flaming skeleton, leaving the soldiers terrified. Then, several beasts from the corpse-bearers sect appear and attack the city. Shilong's master observes the destruction and says he knows the culprit is there. With a look of hatred, he vows to destroy the city to avenge his son. At the pharmacy, Yifan realizes he will have to sacrifice more of his 6 years of life. Outside, cadaver spirits attack the people, who scream for help. The evil souls capture the citizens who are too scared to move. One of the creatures laughs, saying the entire city will become his son's tomb. The dark energy covers everything as the villain prepares to bury the city. Meanwhile, in Yifan's medicine shop, the atmosphere is still calm and safe. The interior of the pharmacy is shown with many well-organized jars and ingredients. Our protagonist is currently teaching the young Zhonglinger how to cultivate. He thinks the enemy seems tough and that using his power costs his own life. The young man remembers the previous fight and that using another strong blow could be the end of him. The mere thought of perishing again leaves him completely terrified and unable to act. So he decides to try infusing his cultivation into specific parts of his body. But as he looks at his hand, he is disappointed that it has barely changed at all. With a light touch, he tears through space and sees the outside of Tianwu City. Next, the young man tries to infuse power into his eyes to see what happens. He is impressed as he can see scenes thousands of miles away. The more cultivation he uses, the farther he can see into the vast world around him. His vision even reaches beyond the sky, becoming as clear as pure crystal. Suddenly, the protagonist realizes his divine eye also has X-ray vision. He uses the power on Linger and comments that her cultivation posture is quite challenging. With that, a nosebleed occurs and the girl asks why he is bleeding. The young man holds her and asks her not to move, while she asks if she did something wrong. The young woman says she feels a warm power rising in her body in a strange way. Yifan realizes that infusing his cultivation into her rapidly increases the girl's strength. Meanwhile, Linger makes some noises and the protagonist asks her to be quiet. At the city gates, chaos reigns and the dark spirits cry out for destruction. The evil souls continue their rampage, leaving a trail of fear wherever they go. Then Peng Fei, the head of the guard, vows to defend the city and turn the monsters to ashes. The captain prepares to use one of his most powerful techniques to fight. He then unleashes his special ability and a huge phoenix flame appears in the sky. The fire phoenix charges forward with full force and hits one of the cadaver spirits head-on. With his power, the guard manages to temporarily halt the advance of the dark creatures. Another soldier celebrates and tells the leader to destroy the ghost infant that has appeared. Peng Fei then introduces himself and asks why such a powerful being is attacking the city. But the villain scoffs at the guard for being a novice and says his audacity is a joke. The captain recognizes Elder Shi and asks him to wait for the city lord to return. However, the enemy says he won't get the chance to see someone named Chu Woyu again. With absurd speed, the sect master appears in front of the guard, who is startled. In an instant, the villain attacks and defeats the captain before he can react in time. Following, the guard says the city lord will not forgive him for this betrayal. The elder calls him noisy and prepares to deliver the final blow without mercy. After defeating the captain, he says he will now destroy all of Tianwu City. Back at the pharmacy, the protagonist senses the enemy's presence and realizes he has come for revenge. He then tells Linga to concentrate on refining her essence, and she agrees. Yifan thinks he can't let the villain act recklessly and decides to intervene. With a determined look, the young man decides to see how much of his power the enemy can withstand. On the battlefield, the elder senses something strange approaching and becomes alert. He feels the powerful aura of the person who defeated his son approaching rapidly. Suddenly, a giant hand appears from the sky and moves toward the master of the dark sect. Terrified, the elder asks the being to stop and tries to reconcile to avoid combat. But the young man laughs and asks if the enemy is joking about wanting a reconciliation. Yifan says his sect is worthless and makes a very disrespectful gesture. He then crushes the villain like a tiny insect without any difficulty. The sect master screams that divinity cannot be humiliated as he is defeated. But the villain doesn't give up and decides to fight with a technique to devour the undead. Our hero says the attack didn't even tickle him and that the enemy has disappointed him. With a look of contempt, he creates a small, shining sphere of energy in his hand. Next, the protagonist crushes the energy with his fingers, releasing immense power. He brags about being in the divinity stage and says the villain is nothing compared to him. Nine appears and warns him that he used too much power and his life has been reduced by 5 years. With a smile, the little administrator informs him that her master now has only 1 year of life left. Yifan screams furiously because he had already contained his power and doesn't understand the 5-year deduction. She then lists all the abilities the system gave him, leaving him shocked. Nine explains with a wicked look that all these functions consume his vitality. The young man calls her a huge swindler and says she's a shameless black market. The girl starts to cry and says she won't pay attention to him anymore for being insulted. Our hero is left speechless, wondering how she managed to turn the blame on him. Linger asks what he was doing, and the young man says he was tricked by a vampire. With a determined look, he decides he needs to find a longevity remedy. The scene then takes us to a large establishment called Wambao Pavilion. A man is on guard in front of the place, seemingly waiting for something. He concentrates his energy on a talisman, preparing to activate a barrier. With a shout, the guard activates the item's power and creates a force field around the area. The man then declares that no one will be able to enter or leave for the next 2 hours. Relieved, he thinks that now no one can get into the pavilion at all. But Yifan appears behind him and says the place must be in that alley, startling him. The guard panics because a common person shouldn't be able to pass through the barrier. The system warns of a nearby cultivator, and the man seems ready to attack. Our hero then yells at the system to disable the automatic scan now. He asks 9 if the system was deducting his life, and she confirms it with disdain. Annoyed, the young man tells her to turn off the application and walks past the guard, who thinks he's crazy. The man tries to convince himself that the barrier wasn't fully sealed yet. Inside the pavilion, the protagonist is impressed by how large the place is. He laments having only 1 year of life left and hopes to find something to extend his time. He thinks he needs to act quickly because next time the outcome could be unpredictable. Suddenly, a woman introduces herself as the master of the pavilion and asks what he desires. With a flushed face, he asks if she has any pills or techniques to extend one's life. Won Honging explains that these methods are rare and that she has none for sale at the moment. But she reveals that she has 3 longevity pills for personal use in a vial. With a smile, the woman asks if these items would be useful to the young master. Our hero's eyes light up and he excitedly asks for the price of that vial. The pavilion master realizes he is just a mortal and that she was mistaken. She then says the price is 1,000 spirit stones, and he pretends not to care about the cost. Desperate, the young man thinks the price is absurd and plans to run away without paying. The woman thinks he is just showing off, and that he deserves what's coming to him. At that moment, a dark figure appears and tries to attack our protagonist by surprise. With a quick move, Yifan manages to dodge the attack and prepares to fight. He gets the idea to use Master Wan's pipe as a weapon to defend himself. The enemy is surprised that he broke free and vows to finish him off now. The protagonist complains that his opponent talks too much nonsense and readies for combat. He then throws the pipe with all his might toward the adversary. The object hits the target squarely and defeats him with a single powerful and precise blow. Our hero is startled by his own strength and regrets overdoing the attack again. Won Honging is shocked to see that he defeated 2 experts with a casual strike. Suddenly, a muscular man grabs her and threatens to crush her head if anyone comes closer. The protagonist observes the scene with a serious and calm look, showing no reaction. He then turns to the woman and proposes that the 2 of them make an interesting deal. Even in danger, she wonders what kind of deal a mortal could possibly make with her. Yifan offers protection in exchange for the 3 longevity pills she possesses. The master finds the proposal amusing and says no one dares to mess with her pavilion. However, the Black One gang invades the place and demands all the pavilion's treasures. 2 members of the gang appear with wicked smiles, ready to cause trouble. The pavilion's guards emerge and shout at the invaders for daring to create a disturbance. One of the bandits then easily defends against a guard's attack with a smile. The gang leader then yells for his men to finish everyone off, leaving no one alive. Won Honging then scoffs at the invaders, wondering how 3 cultivators dare to rob her pavilion. The bandit reveals he knew her guardians went to the mountain and that she is alone. With a wicked smile, the 3 men say they will now end her life. The master realizes they planned everything in advance to catch her off guard. But she warns him that she won't be as easy to deal with as they think and releases her aura. One of the invaders then notices something strange about the smoke she released. Suddenly, the man's face is hit squarely by something he couldn't see. With incredible speed, the woman lands a powerful kick on the first opponent. Next, she appears behind the second one and asks where he's looking at the moment. The master then lands a strong blow on the second enemy, sending him flying with force. Right after, she turns to the muscular leader and prepares for the 3rd attack. With a precise kick, the woman hits the last bandit with all her strength. However, the man laughs and says that Madam One underestimated him and that he is stronger. The leader endures the blow with a shout and seems to have felt almost nothing from the impact. The pavilion master despairs as she realizes she can't pull her foot back. At that moment, the man seizes the opportunity and grabs her with his muscular arms. He compliments her and asks if she was expecting this, leaving her furious. His companion then reminds him of the mission to leave no evidence behind. With a wicked look, the leader agrees and says he'll take care of it quickly now. He then turns to our protagonist and asks about the deal he mentioned earlier. Yifan repeats his proposal of protection in exchange for the 3 longevity pills. The woman says if he saves her, 300 pills would be no problem for her. With a smile, the young man accepts the task and says it's harvest time again. But he despairs, remembering he only has a single year of life left to use. 9 reassures him, saying that 1 year is more than enough to deal with these weaklings. He wonders if he should use his pinky finger, a strand of hair, or just a fart. The bandit laughs at the young man and orders his subordinate Doyen Guy to take care of that brat. The man agrees and launches a powerful attack to trap our hero in place. The 2 villains call him an ignorant brat and tell him to become a corpse. The purple energy restraints bind the protagonist's body, who appears to be defenseless. The bandaged subordinate is completely enveloped by the restraints, unable to move. The gang leader says the girl has lost her last hope and that the brat has turned to dust. But our hero appears behind him and asks if he thinks he has the ability to threaten him. With a look of contempt, he calls the bandit's attitude ridiculous and prepares to attack. Suddenly, an invisible hand grabs the leader's neck, who screams in pain and surprise. The man becomes desperate, not understanding what's happening or how he's being attacked. Yifan says that those who insulted him will taste an agony worse than passing on itself. Then the pipe he used before comes flying back and moves toward the enemy. The bandit screams in terror as he sees the object coming towards him for a direct hit. With a scream of pain, the leader is struck by the pipe, which pierces him with great force. Our protagonist retrieves the object and returns it to the pavilion master. With a satisfied smile, the young man says that's enough trouble for 1 day. The system informs him that he defeated 3 cultivators and deducted 2 months from his life. He celebrates for not having spent much of his lifespan to deal with those weaklings. But 9 complains that with so little life left, she won't be able to meet her quotas. The young man then pinches her cheeks and promises to better control his use of cultivation. The little administrator cries, saying her face is swollen and that he's going to get it. Our hero is confused by her reaction and doesn't understand what she meant by that. Then one Honging thanks him for his help and offers 12 longevity pills as a reward. He thinks that 12 pills only add 3 years and that he'll need another solution. The protagonist asks if she has any body refinement techniques in the pavilion. The woman explains that those techniques were lost and the pavilion doesn't collect them. However, she promises that if the senior needs them, they will spare no effort to find them. He gets annoyed for not having a cultivation technique, and she reinforces the offer of help. At that moment, a purple attack hits the pavilion, causing a large explosion. The pavilion master is caught squarely by the surprise attack and is thrown far away. Our protagonist turns around, surprised, not understanding what just happened there. A monstrous being appears and yells that the boy has a lot of nerve to be so bold. The monster introduces itself as a clone from the Black Wen village and vows to make him pay. The woman is shocked to realize that Shangde implanted a clone in his brother Shang-Er's body. The protagonist is stunned by the enemy's strategy and the surprise attack that came. Desperate, he asks Nine how many days of his life he'll need to defeat the villain. Nine appears and jokes, telling him to guess the cost, warning that he needs to act fast. The monster then unleashes a powerful technique called the Flame of the Apocalypse. His life expectancy starts to drop rapidly, and he wonders if he should use more power. With a furious roar, the villain charges to attack the young man, telling him to prepare to perish. A giant hand moves quickly towards him to grab him with immense force. Determined, the young man decides he will endure the blow with his life as he's being forced to. He then eats the longevity pills and yells that the enemy's days are numbered. The monster calls him an insect and vows to tear him to pieces for daring to resist. With a confident smile, Yifan prepares to show the power of billions of years of cultivation. An immense and colorful explosion of energy is released with completely overwhelming power. He laments overdoing it again, as he still can't control his power properly. The system shows his life is now 2 years and 3 months, minus 21 days spent. The interior of Wanbao Pavilion is completely destroyed after all the chaos. The pavilion master then approaches and calls out to young master with a serious look. She then bows and begs him to help her with the purification of her essence. Our protagonist is confused and asks why he should help her with this request. With a serious expression, the woman says the young master doesn't understand her situation. She reveals that she was the rightful heir of the main lineage of Wanbao Pavilion, but she was poisoned and her cultivation diminished, turning her into a discarded child for years. The woman then promises that if he helps her, she will help him obtain the best longevity item. Our hero remains silent, seemingly considering the proposal she just made. One Honging asks if he's not interested in the longevity item she offered. With a smile, he asks if she wants to do the purification right there in the middle of the hall. Embarrassed, the young woman stammers and says she doesn't want to do that there at all. She then guides him to the back of the pavilion, saying there are rooms available there. The woman opens a door and tells the young master that they have finally arrived at the place. She then asks if the room is spacious enough for what he needs to do. The woman asks if he needs treasures or formations, and the young man says he doesn't need so much trouble. He then points to the bed and tells her to lie down, leaving the young woman completely shocked by the request. All embarrassed, she says this isn't appropriate, but he asks if she's going to do it or not, and the young woman agrees. Far away in the Black Wind Fortress, the atmosphere is dark and threatening during the night. The gang leader from before screams in pain as he spits up a lot of blood due to his injuries. He wonders who the young man is to break his soul and if he is of the nascent soul stage or stronger. The villain realizes that if the young man is a real cultivator, he could crush him like an ant. Completely terrified by this idea, the man wonders what he should do now. An advisor approaches and asks if the master has encountered a formidable enemy, and he confirms it. The hooded man reminds him of the treasure that cursed the 72 members of the Zhong family. This treasure is the Scepter of Eternal Donation, an extremely powerful and dangerous weapon. With a wicked smile, the villain says not even nascent soul cultivators can escape the item's power. He then shouts his orders, preparing to use the power of that terrible and evil scepter. The master orders the capture of everyone for a sacrifice, while the people scream for help. Back in the room, the woman is lying on the bed, looking a little nervous about the situation. She then asks the young master if her position is good for the procedure to begin. With a smile, he says it might hurt a little and asks her to hang in there for a while. Our protagonist then raises his hand and activates his powerful billion-year system. The young woman lets out some strange sounds as the young man's energy begins to flow through her body. A powerful energy begins to envelop the woman's body with absurd intensity. She is surprised as she feels a very strong energy coursing through her entire body all of a sudden. The young man asks how she is feeling and if the procedure is comfortable for her. Embarrassed, she replies that she is fine but thinks it was shameful to make that sound in front of him. Suddenly, she realizes the poison from years ago is dissipating and that she has become a pure spirit body. The woman is shocked because not even a ninth grade pill could do that and wonders who he is. Honging then thanks the young master for her rebirth and for granting her the pure spirit body. He says there's no need for courtesy, as he just fulfilled his promise, and now it's her turn. The young man says goodbye, but is suddenly pulled into the system interface. He yells at the system for not letting him pretend any longer and asks why he was summoned. Annoyed, he glares at little Nine and asks what's wrong with her for doing that. Nine calls him a fool for thinking about girls when he's about to run out of time. Shocked, the young man asks what she means by him being about to run out of life all of a sudden. A screen shows his days dwindling, and the girl warns him that some wretch has cursed him. The numbers continue to decrease rapidly, showing the severity of the curse that has hit him. Our hero is left speechless and wonders how this could have happened to him now. Elsewhere, a ritual sucks the life force from several people at once, without stopping. The victims scream in pain and despair as their lives are drained by that power. With a wicked smile, the villain says that Yifan is now doomed and has no escape. Back in the system, Nine explains that this is the curse of Brother Sheng, whom he defeated. She continues, saying she helped him cling to life, as he would have perished on the spot. Furious, the administrator says the enemy dared to steal the destiny she had selected. The young man asks how much time he has left, and she says his 2 years have turned into just 1 week. Terrified, the young man screams in disbelief that he only has 1 week of life remaining. Nine confirms he is going to meet his end and tells him to break the curse, because they are in this together. With that, the protagonist is thrown out of the system with a large blast of energy. He ends up falling on top of Honging and complains to Nine for not looking where she throws him. The young woman is startled and asks how the master managed to get back to the room so quickly. Our hero then holds the woman's face and calls her name with a serious look. Confused, she looks at him and asks why he's calling her master like that. The young man tells her to look for a longevity remedy for him at the Jukang pharmacy. Honging assures the master that she will do everything possible to find what he needs. Surrounded by a blue aura, Yifan says he needs to leave first to handle his affairs. The woman watches him leave while calling his name, looking concerned about the situation. The scene takes us to the Black Wind village, where an evil energy covers everything. A demonic creature with wings and tentacles emerges from the darkness of that place. A pit full of skulls and red energy reveals the result of a terrible ritual. 4 hooded figures perform a ritual while a victim screams that they don't want this. The villain observes everything from his throne with an expression of pure satisfaction. A woman screams in despair that she doesn't want to perish as her life is sucked away by the curse. With a wicked laugh, the gang leader celebrates the success of his cruel plan. The villain brags that his clone marked the enemy's soul, and that everything went well for him. He says it doesn't matter if the young man is a god, because the heavenly curse has caught him for good. The enemy then states that once affected by this curse, all one can do is wait for the end. But suddenly, a blue portal appears, and the scepter of cursing is pulled into it. With a swift move, a mysterious hand grabs and shatters the cursed weapon into pieces. Our hero then appears and says the enemy has already decided his own fate with his actions. The villain is startled and asks how he detected a divine object from the Emperor's era. Calling the enemy's words nonsense, Yifan releases an immense aura of blue power. Nine appears and warns him that to do this, he consumed half of his remaining life at once. With a worried look, the little administrator asks if her master is really okay. But he says he doesn't care about his life and wants to see the enemy suffer much more. With a smile, the girl offers to help, since they are partners in this, after all. At that moment, the administrator merges with the protagonist's body in a fusion of energy. Together, they unleash an overwhelming pink power and prepare attack with everything they've got. The villain screams that it's impossible, as the young man had already been cursed by him before. One of the henchmen is hit squarely by the pink attack and screams in pain from the impact. The sect master tries to defend himself with his giant fist, but the energy is too strong. The villain's technique is completely shattered by the overwhelming power of the combined attack. He's then engulfed by the fusion's power and screams in despair as his body disintegrates. Our hero watches the scene with a serious look as the enemy is completely destroyed. The man screams in agony, not understanding how this can be happening to him again. The blow was so powerful that a beam of energy pierced through the planet and went into space. With that, the villain's body, known as Brother Bear, turns to dust in the middle of outer space. Back at the site of the fight, the protagonist observes the destruction he caused with his power. Annoyed, he curses the enemy for daring to conspire against him and calls him clueless. But Nine warns him that his life is still being consumed 100 times faster than before. The young man is startled because he had already destroyed the cursing scepter and doesn't understand why. She explains it's too late because the curse has already attached itself to him, and the item was useless. Desperate, the young man tears his clothes and sees a glowing curse mark on his chest. With an expression of defeat, he realizes his end is near and doesn't know what to do. Outside the pharmacy in Tianwu City, someone screams in terror about a monster. We see people running desperately while warning about a creature on the street. Then a bear-like creature roars, its red eyes glowing. Our protagonist walks in despair, thinking that if Nine's calculations are correct. He then panics because he only has 3 days of life left and doesn't know how to save himself. Arriving at the pharmacy, he announces he's back but sees Linger in front of a giant paw. Terrified by the scene, the young man yells for the young woman to be very careful with the creature. However, the monster is actually a fluffy white bear helping the girl carry firewood. The young woman then pets the giant bear on the head, which seems to really like her. Just then, the girl sees him and calls him Brother Yifan with a very happy smile on her face. She runs to hug him, and the young man gets flustered by the young woman's sudden embrace. Meanwhile, the large white bear just watches the two of them together with a curious look. The girl introduces him as Little Cotton, and the protagonist is shocked by the name. She explains that the bear was her childhood pet and was very close to her. But one day, the Black Wind village attacked, and her parents were taken down in front of her. Amidst the fire and confusion, Little Cotton ended up getting separated from his owner. With tears in her eyes, the girl vows that one day she will get her revenge for everything. Our hero then comforts her and tells her not to be sad because the village no longer exists. Surprised, the young woman asks if the Black Wind village really doesn't exist in the world anymore. With a smile, he says he eliminated them because they were evil and offended him in some way. He then holds her and says that now she is his family and no one will intimidate her anymore. All embarrassed, the young woman calls for Brother Yifan with a happy and emotional expression. We see the bear crying with happiness with a congratulations sign behind the two young people. The girl then asks if he's hungry and offers to make him something to eat. Next, we see the young man and the bear inside the pharmacy with another person watching the scene. But Nine appears and reminds him that he's talking a lot but only has 3 days of life left. Desperate, he wonders where he can find a longevity remedy in such a short time. At that moment, Little Cotton makes a strange noise and catches our hero's attention. The bear shows a golden fruit and he recognizes it as the Emperor's longevity fruit. With a smile, he celebrates because even with its poor quality, the fruit can grant 5 years of life. Excited, the young man invites Little Cotton to go with him to collect some medicinal herbs. With a smile, he puts a giant backpack on and says he's taking some things with him. He then says goodbye and warns that he won't be back for dinner tonight, leaving the girls surprised. The scene then takes us to a sect located amidst enormous and beautiful mountains. Just then, we see a woman flying quickly towards one of the buildings in that location. The other disciples celebrate upon seeing the young woman and say that senior sister Wushuang is back. Without wasting time, the warrior enters one of the rooms to meet an important person. Inside, she finds a blue-haired woman and greets her, calling her sister. The blue-haired young woman then asks if Wushuang learned anything from her mission experience. She recounts that she went to Dalong Mountain and obtained the Sword of Compassion from the Imperial Palace. With an intense glow, the young warrior then shows the powerful sword she managed to get. Her sister is completely shocked to see the artifact and stares at her with wide eyes. Right after, the woman gets up and calls for Wushuang to go with her to another place. The two then move quickly and appear in a beautiful and tranquil bamboo forest. With a serious look, she says the matter is not trivial and asks her sister to tell her the details. Wushuang explains that she was pursued by the Taoist stone dragon because of the sword. But a mysterious expert saved her and, instead of the sword, asked for a method to extend his life. Her sister is surprised because many want the imperial weapon, but he didn't want it at all. The young woman says his strength is immense and that he is going to Tianwu City to find her. The blue-haired woman reflects that in the city she governs, there is someone so powerful. She then says she understands the situation and asks Wushuang to take care of the sword and practice hard. The older one warns that she needs to report to the sect master, and her sister agrees. But suddenly something strange happens, and the woman seems to feel a very strong pain in her body. At that moment, a dark figure attacks Wushuang from behind, and her sister screams her name. A purple poison mark appears on her body, and the young woman recognizes the Taoist mark. Desperate, she says only the one who applied the poison can remove it and doesn't know what to do. Far away, a man kneels before Hongying and says the apothecary has nothing special. She thinks that she never imagined someone so important would hide in Tianwu City. As she reflects on this, a jade pendant on her clothes begins to glow intensely. With a determined look, the woman then places a talisman on top of the glowing pendant. The woman observes the glowing talisman as smoke comes out of the golden object. Angrily, she complains that the two left without permission and asks if they think she's useless. An old man then talks about a 1,000-year-old ginseng that can solve their problems now. The pavilion master is completely shocked by the news she just received. He explains that the ginseng escaped from the palace and is on the Great Dragon Mountain. Determined, she thinks this is the item Master Yi entrusted her to find. The woman then calls for Yuanbao and a small hamster appears surrounded by many coins. The little pet seems very sleepy as it rests in its owner's hand with a cute face. With a serious look and her animal on her shoulder, she yells to everyone that it's time to go. The scene takes us to a peaceful place in the middle of a beautiful forest full of trees. Back to our hero, he makes a funny face, seeming very satisfied. The young man and Little Cotton are lying down, and the bear says eating was very good. The system shows his life has been extended by 1 year, and he celebrates for having succeeded. He holds the last fruit and regrets not being able to eat more to extend his life even further. But suddenly Yuanbao appears out of nowhere and manages to steal the fruit from our hero's hand. Furious, he yells for the animal to give back his fruit while the little creature flees quickly. Just then, the protagonist looks at the sky and notices the weather is suddenly changing. He then remembers having been in a very similar situation before. The small rodent then comes flying back and the young man asks how it managed to return. In the animal's hand is Hongying's necklace, and the young man recognizes the item immediately. Suddenly, a fight scene appears, showing an intense confrontation happening there. Hongjing fights with the elder and asks if he still wants to fight for her treasure. But the old man calls her a pawn and says no one will care if he defeats her. With a powerful blow, the man throws the pavilion master far away with great force. He calls her a vile woman and promises a decent end if he gets the ginseng he's looking for. The elder then touches the young woman's neck, seemingly looking for something. Furious, the man asks where the necklace he was looking for on her body is. Even injured, she laughs and says he won't be able to steal the treasure with his strength. Calling her a scoundrel, the old man advances with his sword to deliver the final blow. However, a pink energy attack appears and cuts some feathers that were flying by. Our hero launches a powerful energy attack with Hongjing right behind him, watching everything. The blow squarely hits the elder's attack, which was trying to strike the pavilion master. With a smile on her face, Hongjing excitedly shouts the name of the young master who saved her. Yifan explains that thanks to the little treasure hunting rat, he managed to arrive in time. But he gets all embarrassed and thinks it's better not to tell her all the details. The young woman then offers the ginseng and says that is the longevity item he was looking for. With a confident smile, the protagonist says that with this, the problem is solved. He then holds the item and tells the woman to watch his performance now. His eyes shine with an intense light, revealing his great determination at the moment. The young man then throws the ginseng with all his strength as if it were a sharp blade. In the sky, an enemy gets annoyed with their insolence in front of the golden elixir. Hongjing then warns him that the two are golden elixir cultivators and for him to be careful. With a smile, he asks if she wants revenge since there are two opponents to fight. But the woman hesitates as she is only at the advanced foundation establishment stage. He says that doesn't matter and touches her forehead with a bright golden energy. Surprised, she feels her cultivation suddenly increase to the power of the golden elixir peak. At that moment, a bright golden weapon appears in her hands, ready for combat. The elder shouts for the insects to perish and charges forward with a powerful attack on them. Our hero and Hongjing prepare for the fight, standing back to back. The two enemies then charge with full force and shout that they are looking for their end. With serious and determined looks, the two prepare for the confrontation that is coming. In an instant, they appear and land a double punch on the old man's face at the same time. The elder complains that not even his own father hit him like that and is completely shocked. The duo then faces the other villain, who asks Master Yi not to be impulsive, please. With the force of the blow, the old enemy is thrown far away with a scream of pain and surprise. The remaining opponent calls them troublemakers and seems very annoyed with the situation. He then prepares to use his final move and finish them both off at once. But suddenly, the man kneels on the ground and screams desperately that he was wrong. He hugs the young man's leg and begs the boss to spare his life because he has a family. The protagonist then asks if that old man has always been like this, and if they should let him go. Hongjing offers the elder a chance to live if he swears to serve Master Yi faithfully. The man accepts the proposal immediately and bows as a sign of respect and submission. He watches the two leave and thinks the pavilion will change hands in the future. As they walk through the forest, Hongjing calls out to young Master Yi, seeming thoughtful. The young man asks what happened and why the pavilion master seems so worried. The woman thanks him again for saving her but regrets having depended on him to assert herself. With tears in her eyes, she admits she doesn't know how to get information on her own. He comforts her and tells the woman not to underestimate herself because she is capable of much. With a blushing face, she calls him by name and is left speechless by his gesture. But the system reminds him that he forgot something very important and interrupts him. Little Nine then appears with a scythe and an unfriendly look on her face for him. The young man yells at the girl for ruining his moment of gaining affection points. Nine glares at him and asks if he wants to live, because he's wasting time on other things. Not understanding at all, he asks what she meant, and the little administrator glares at him. But the girl just turns away and says it's nothing, leaving the young man even more confused. Right after, she says goodbye, and the young man is thrown far away without warning. Furious, the young man calls her a cursed girl and tells her to get out of his manhwa. Our hero then falls on top of Hongjing, who calls his name all confused. Embarrassed, the young woman asks him to get off her because the position is strange. Awkwardly, the young man apologizes and says he didn't mean to fall like that. Hongjing thinks she might like him because the master doesn't look down on her and saved her. The young man gets up and the woman stays on the ground, not quite understanding the situation. The young woman then gets up and says she needs to leave, saying goodbye to the young man. She thinks she can't like someone so important while he is left confused. The story then takes us to the large and bustling heavenly martial city. We see two men thanking Lord Chu for his help in rebuilding the city walls. Someone wonders if it was Lord Chu who defeated the noble, but another thinks not. The mysterious figure thinks that he didn't expect the old stone ghost to fall for that. The hooded being says the city has become a problem for his sect and needs to disappear. However, something catches his attention, and the masked figure turns around in surprise. We see linger at a fish stall, asking the price of one of the products. The mysterious being observes her and realizes she has a pure spirit and that he can use her. Very happy, the girl returns home, humming and holding her basket with the fish. But upon arriving, she finds something strange and stops suddenly with a confused expression. The young woman remembers closing the door before she left and doesn't understand why it's open. Terrified at the idea of a thief in the house, the young woman enters very carefully. With her heart in her throat, she asks if it's Brother Fan who's inside the house. Suddenly, a shadow appears in front of her, and the girl screams in fear from the fright. But it was just our hero, who tells her to calm down because it's him and he's back. Relieved, the young woman says she got a scare because she thought it was a thief breaking in. The young man hugs her to comfort her and asks why she is so scared. With a wicked smile, he says that with him around, she doesn't need to be afraid. His eye then glows with a frightening red light, showing a change in him. Outside of Tianwu City, the fake hero and the girl walk through a forest. She asks what he wants to show her, as they've walked very far from the city. With a smile, he says it's the spirit fruit he hid and asks her to hang on. Suspicious, the young woman says Brother Fan wouldn't act like this and asks who he really is. With a dark look and a wicked smile, the imposter wonders who he is. He then reveals himself as Fan's older brother and shows his true form. The fake brother then says he's going to take her pure spirit body, and the location changes. At that moment, the real protagonist arrives home and announces that he's back. He finds the silence strange and calls for Linger, wondering where the girl is now. The young man enters a room and is shocked to see little Cotton fallen on the floor. He recognizes Auntie Ju and realizes the imposter used a soul-searching technique. Furious, the young man releases his aura and yells that he needs to find Linger no matter what. With his powers, he flies through the city skies and searches for his missing friend. Using his enhanced vision, the hero manages to find the girl in a cave. He sees her chained up and being threatened by a hooded figure in the darkness. Our hero recognizes the symbol of the corpse sect and becomes furious with the kidnapper. The villain wonders whose powerful aura that is that just appeared there. The villain brags that he will refine the girl into a pill to obtain immense power. The young woman seems to be slowly losing consciousness, unable to react properly. She threatens him, saying Yifan won't forgive him, but the villain laughs because he's immortal. The kidnapper tells her not to think about escaping, because she has no chance against his clutches. He throws her into a cell with other victims, and calls them catalysts for his ascension. The monster then tells one of the girls not to cry and prepares for the dark ritual. He then grabs her forcefully and says she should smile for being part of his ascension. Angrily, Linger calls him a beast and says he's nothing compared to Brother Yifan. Furious at the mention of the name, the villain lunges to attack the girl with his energy. The young woman is hit squarely and spits blood, while the enemy laughs at her pain and despair. With tears in her eyes, she calls for Yifan and says she can't take it anymore. The kidnapper then begins to use her life force in a sacrificial ritual. He transforms into a monstrous creature and says he will make a blood sacrifice. But suddenly, the monster notices something strange and looks up, completely shocked. It was our protagonist who appeared out of nowhere, and is now holding the young woman to protect her. The villain asks if he was the one who defeated Shiyu and Shilong, and the young man gives him a serious look. The monster thinks Yifan knows nothing and plans to refine her into a pill soon. But a dark silhouette appears behind the creature, which doesn't understand the scene at all. The real hero appears and reveals that the monster was talking to an illusion. With a look of pure hatred, our protagonist glares at the villain who kidnapped his friend. Terrified, the monster offers to return the girl if the young man lets him leave. The young woman is relieved and happy to see that the real Brother Fan has finally arrived. He comforts her and says everything is okay, because now they will go home to eat fish together. With a smile on her face, the girl agrees to the request and feels safe with him. The young man then turns to the monster with a blue aura and prepares for combat. The hero orders him to kneel, and the villain begs not to be ended, as there will be consequences. Our hero is furious that he thinks he can threaten him just for capturing someone. A blue energy envelopes the monster, who screams, not knowing what was done to its body. The villain screams in pain as he is completely sucked in by that overwhelming power. In the end, a ring with a blue gem is all that remains of the enemy after the attack. With his blue energy, our hero manages to free the girl from her chains. He holds her in his arms and tells the young woman to rest because she is safe now. But suddenly, little Nine appears behind him with a not so friendly expression. Next, the administrator hits him from behind with a strong and unexpected blow. With a scythe in hand, she glares at him and asks if he always needs to be so dramatic. The young man yells at the girl and vows he won't forgive her for this unprovoked aggression. He continues yelling at Nine, not understanding the reason for being hit like that. The protagonist asks if she's defective for being so nice to him all of a sudden. The little system administrator then calls him an idiot and seems a bit embarrassed. Our hero is completely shocked by her reaction and doesn't know what to say. 2 days later, in a large and bustling city, the sun shines brightly in the sky. Suddenly, the door of a house is broken down with a powerful and precise kick. A man in armor appears and seems to be carrying someone in his arms. He says he never expected to see Brother Yi in the Lord's mansion, which is forbidden to outsiders. A guard stops them and announces himself as Lin Lai, the city leader, and requests an audience. The man in armor explains that this is where the doctors and representatives of the sects stay. In a room, we see several important men sitting and waiting for something. Our hero says it's not appropriate for him to be there and tries to leave the place. But his friend reminds him that he used an herb to revive him and that he hasn't forgotten that. Furthermore, he says that Lady Chu is easy to deal with and there's nothing to worry about. The young man shows his friend a document and asks why he isn't at the mansion. With a smile, the man says a major situation occurred and the Lord dispatched them. The document is a recruitment notice for a doctor who can cure the Lord's sister. Excited, the friend says the protagonist is the best doctor he knows for the job. He continues, saying that if the young man wakes up the Lord's sister, his future will be secure. But the young man says success doesn't matter and wonders what a mortal can do there. However, the friend reveals that the Lord offered secret techniques and elixirs as a reward. Upon hearing this, our hero shouts with excitement at the possibility of getting those items. Without a second thought, he jumps up excitedly and calls for Lizzie so they can go handle it. His friend is left with a blank face, not understanding his sudden change in attitude. In the room, everyone is talking about Dr. Lee from the 100 Herbs Valley, who is very famous. Our protagonist then watches the old doctor enter one of the rooms in the place. After a while, the burning incense finally reaches its end. Dr. Lee then says goodbye to the woman and says he is leaving. Our hero's friend is astonished and asks if even he couldn't cure the young woman. The old man explains that the illness is a mix of poison and sorcery, and he cannot help. Then Lady Chu's attendant calls for Dr. Yi and asks him to enter the room. With a nod from the woman, our protagonist enters the room to see the patient. Inside, he sees Lady Chu and a boy with rabbit ears and finds her familiar. The young man keeps wondering why that woman seems so familiar to him. She introduces herself as the Lady of Tianwu, and he says he is a doctor from the city. But the young man still has the feeling that he has seen her somewhere before. Suddenly, the boy with rabbit ears screams in surprise, catching everyone's attention. He then says he admires the young man for staying calm even in their presence. The woman explains that he is Elder Maorcha, her older brother who came to help. She then introduces her sister Chu Wushuang, leaving our protagonist in shock. He recognizes the fairy he saved on the mountain and sees the poison marks on her. The young man soon realizes her illness is related to the necromancer sect. The city lady asks if he can cure her, and he says he will examine her. Without wasting time, he approaches and begins to examine the young woman's meridians. As he examines her, a man with a fan suddenly appears at the door of the room. The newcomer enters the room with a confident smile and an air of nobility. The little elder complains that annoying ghosts have arrived to ruin everything. The man asks how Wushuang is, and Lady Chu questions him about his visit. Master Jin positions himself in front of the two, looking very concerned about the girl. The older one explains that a demonic pattern has spread across her sister's body. The noble then looks at our hero and asks who the young man by the bed is. She introduces him as Mr. Yi, a doctor from the city clinic who came to help. Jin says he understands the search for help but doubts a mortal can cure her. Our protagonist ignores the taunt and remains focused on analyzing the young woman's illness. The young man realizes that Wushuan's spiritual sea is being corroded by a strange energy. He suspects it's the work of the necromancer sect and thinks about the cost of helping her recover. He then turns to the noble and tells him to get away from Wushuang because this is none of his business. Yifan asks for permission to treat her, but Jin scoffs at him for his cultivation level being too low. With a look of contempt, the noble tells him to stop embarrassing himself and leave at once. With a confident smile, the protagonist then challenges him to try and cure the young woman first. Master Jin accepts the challenge and says he's lucky to have a little self-awareness. With a serious expression, the man approaches the bed to begin examining the girl. But suddenly, he breaks out in a cold sweat, shocked by what he's just discovered. An energy hits him squarely and throws him backward with a cry of surprise and pain. The rabbit-eared boy and her sister scream that Wushuang has suddenly fainted. At that moment, the sick young woman spits up dark blood, her condition rapidly worsening. Everyone panics and wonders what is happening to the girl on the bed. The noble says he only probed her consciousness and doesn't understand the strong reaction it caused. He then glares at our hero and wonders if the young man is interfering in some way. Furious with the situation, the man clenches his fan tightly and curses what happened. He then points at Yifan and accuses him of purposely worsening the young woman's condition. Our protagonist then begins to explain the big mistake the noble just made. He says the man's energy collided with the poison, and that now they need to find the core. The young man turns to the city lady and asks if she trusts him with the treatment. With a determined look, she agrees and says she will leave Wushuang in his care. Master Jim screams in despair at her decision, unable to believe what he just heard. He then complains to the elder for trusting a nobody to get near the girl. But the rabbit-eared boy tells the noble to open his eyes wide and pay attention. The elder says the young man's cultivation is not as simple as it seems and that he's hiding something. Shocked, Master Jin recognizes the release of energy and can't believe what he's seeing. The little elder then confirms that our hero was hiding his cultivation before. The city lady realizes he is the expert Wushuang mentioned to her. With his hands glowing, the protagonist prepares to use his power to heal the young woman. A huge column of golden energy then explodes toward the sky with immense power. The golden energy released by our hero breaks through the ceiling of the place with incredible force. After some time, Wushuang finally seems to be sleeping peacefully and serenely. Slowly, the young woman begins to open her green eyes, indicating that she is waking up. She then sees her sister Senior Mao and Senior Yi looking at her with relief on their faces. Lady Chu kneels and thanks the young man for saving her life and places herself at his disposal. The girl who was healed also thanks him for saving her once again from danger. Embarrassed, the protagonist says there's no need for formalities as it was a small effort. The little elder then praises the young man, saying the new generation is truly formidable. He then invites him to join the Tianyu Palace and offers him a peek. But the young man refuses the offer, saying he is just a villager accustomed to freedom. He thinks that what was promised were manuals and elixirs, not a peak to play with. The noble thinks that to release such power, the young man must be at the nascent divinity level. With a look of hatred and envy, Master Jin cannot accept the protagonist's strength. Wushuang's sister is surprised by the trust the girl has in the young man she barely knows. The noble approaches and says the Jin family will stand by his side because of the true family. Then with a fake smile on his face, the man says goodbye and leaves the place, annoyed. Our hero realizes that his words are not sincere and that he might cause trouble. Lady Chu calls him to get his reward, as her sister is already resting peacefully. She then takes him to a huge treasure pavilion filled with gold and valuable items. The young man is shocked and says that this is even more extravagant than the Wanbao pavilion. The young woman explains that although it doesn't compare to the Tianyu palace, it has many treasures. The rabbit-eared boy offers to take him to the palace, as it has more things. The protagonist then accepts the invitation, as the corpse sect has provoked him too much already. He then warns Lady Chu to be careful, as Wu Shuang was injured by the sect. The two agree that the sect is dangerous, and that the continent will fall into chaos again. Confused, the young man asks what this immortal emperor's palace they mentioned is. They explain that the emperor was the man closest to becoming a god for years. In ancient times, 9 emperors guarded the continents and sealed demons in the abyss. The palace that appeared is their tomb, with treasures in their sealed physical bodies. Upon hearing about the split mountain, the young man wonders if his blow created a duplicate. The rabbit-eared boy hurries his younger sister to take young Master Yi to the pavilion. Inside the box is a storage ring and a pill that extends life by 1,000 years. With a wicked smile on his face, our hero takes the longevity pill, very satisfied. But 9 appears and teases him for his smile, and he denies everything, saying it's for slander. The city lady says it would be great if the pill were useful to the senior who saved her. She reveals she had to bet everything and spread the news to be able to find him there. The woman then offers him some secret manuals she collected from to choose one. The protagonist is impressed by the many books floating around him in the place. Without a second thought, the young man grabs one of the manuals and says he'll take that one. However, the young woman warns him that the book is about body refinement and suggests he take another. The rabbit-eared boy asks his sister not to interfere, as he must have his reasons. Yefan explains that with his billions in cultivation, he needs a stronger physique now. With that, he accepts the gift, and the woman promises to warn him about the corpse bearer sect. At that moment, his friend Lizzie invites him to celebrate with a good meal, and he accepts. As they walk, the friend remembers a moment and holds a purple dagger behind his back. Suddenly, the man in armor tries to strike the protagonist with the dagger from behind. The friend's face shows he is sweating and doesn't seem to be in control of the situation. But the blow hits Lizzie himself, and our hero yells for him to watch out for the attack. Desperate, the young man screams his friend's name, not understanding what just happened. The man in armor then falls to the ground in great pain from the wound he suffered. The protagonist shouts his friend's nickname while holding him to keep him from falling to the ground, injured. Even injured, the young man says it's okay, that they were just superficial wounds. The two then walk together to a safe place as the sun shines on the horizon. Our hero has a serious and suspicious look after the strange attack that occurred. He then looks back, wondering what really caused that surprise attack. The scene takes us to the entrance of the grand and imposing Jin mansion, shining in the sun. A hooded figure says that Yifan didn't notice the attack, but the commander next to him did. The noble tells his father that the young man is just a mortal, and there's nothing to fear. But the old man says that with the incident, the young man will receive the protection of the Moon Palace. Desperate, his son shouts because they had an engagement agreement with the Chu family. The elder says the Chu family is no longer the same, and that they need to adjust their attitude. The noble understands, but his father criticizes him, saying he's not as good as the others. With a look of pure hatred, Master Jin grinds his teeth in anger at his father's words. Furious, he throws his fan forcefully onto the table, showing all his frustration at the moment. The young man then turns and leaves the room without saying another word to his father. Alone, the old man shatters a cup on the floor and curses his foolish son's attitude. The noble complains that the young man is just a mortal and that the master of the Jin family is a coward. At that moment, a man appears at the door, and the young man is surprised to see his master has arrived. The newcomer then asks Jin Yang what made him so angry like that. The noble tries to explain the situation but ends up getting tongue-tied because of his anger. The master thinks everything is related to Tianwu City again and reflects. He thinks Jin Zhenian has grown old and conservative, and this is holding the family back. Far away, Lady Chu seems to agree with the Jin master's thought about the old man. The young noble complains that his father bowed to the Chu family and that they have fallen far. With a smile, the master praises his disciple's ambition and invites him to go with him. The man then concentrates and suddenly releases a powerful purple energy from his body. He summons a huge winged serpent and tells his good disciple that they are leaving now. Confused, the noble asks his master where they're going in such a hurry. With a wicked smile, the man says they are going to a place where they can gain more power. A month later, an origami crane flies through a forest on the sword peak of the Moon Palace. We see Lady Chu training intensely with her sword amidst the nature of the place. Suddenly, the bird-shaped origami flies towards the blade of her sword. The woman then stops her training and holds the small paper bird with curiosity. With the object in her hands, she seems to be receiving some kind of important message. After hearing the message, the young woman has a serious and thoughtful expression for a moment. She then turns and starts walking, seeming to have a new destination in mind. Back at Ifan's clinic, the same paper bird flies towards our hero. The young man and Linger are startled to see the origami fly into the office on its own. The girl explains that Brother Yi can communicate over long distances with the talisman. Our protagonist then compares the object to a cell phone, and the young woman asks what that is. The protagonist asks if the talisman is already transmitting, and the young woman confirms with a yes. Suddenly, the origami projects a distress call, leaving our hero completely shocked. He recognizes Lady Chu's voice, and the paper bird catches fire in his hand at the same time. Far away, the noble's master says that with all the guests gathered, the party can begin. With a wicked smile, he tells the head of the Golden family to show his true colors. Elsewhere, Lady Chu prepares to fight with a serious expression on her face. She is surrounded by an army of puppets and realizes that 7 days have already passed. Tired, the woman says the enemies seem endless, no matter how many she defeats. The warrior then continues fighting desperately against the horde that doesn't stop advancing. Cursing the situation, the young woman finds herself completely surrounded by the frightening puppets. With no other choice, she uses her bright moon technique to try to finish them all at once. A huge whirlpool of blue energy destroys several of the enemies with immense power. But to her despair, the puppets continue to advance as if nothing happened. With that, the woman ends up being hit and spits blood due to the force of the blow. Fallen, she realizes the Jin family's invitation was actually a huge conspiracy. In a flashback, she remembers the day she received the letter from the Jin family for a banquet. Even though she doesn't like banquets, she went because of the long friendship with the Chu family. But upon arriving at the location, the woman found it strange because there was no one there, and everything was empty. She then picks up a cup and realizes the object is actually made of paper and not ceramic. Realizing it's a trap, the warrior is caught by a purple teleportation matrix. The woman is then teleported to another place and wonders where she suddenly ended up. Upon arriving at the new location, a skeleton hand grabs her from behind with great force and malice. Shocked by the surprise attack, the young woman is thrown far away, unable to react in time. With that, she finds herself surrounded by the same frightening puppets from the previous fight. Back in Tiamu's city, we see a crowd gathered at the gates of the Great Wall. Wu Shuang approaches our hero and hands him a red box that he had requested. With a smile, the young man thanks Miss Chu for her help with the item he needed. The two then look inside the box with a curious expression on their faces. Our hero then takes out a piece of red clothing and says the Lord has very good taste. But Wu Shuang turns to stone and apologizes to her sister for having disappointed her. With a confident smile, he says that with a piece of clothing, he will be able to find Lady Chu. Desperate, the young woman cries and asks if there isn't another way to find her sister. He thinks about using his divine vision, but that could harm little Administrator 9. So he decides to try the first method to see if he can find her that way. The young man explains that the closer they are to the clothing, the easier it will be to track her. With a determined smile, he releases his energy to start the tracking immediately. A powerful wave of purple energy then crosses the forest with incredible speed. Suddenly, his vision shows a bizarre puppet with red eyes and a frightening smile. Our protagonist is completely shocked and wonders what that strange creature is. Wu Shuang then holds him and asks if he managed to find her sister and where she is now. With a tense expression, the young man remains focused, trying to locate the missing woman. According to the location he sensed, the young man turns to a shelf full of scrolls. He then opens a map and points to a location in the southwest, saying she must be there. His finger points to a drawing of a mountain that seems to be the exact location of the Hudyat. The young woman recognizes the Miasma Valley and prepares to leave with her new companion soon. With a smile on his face, the young man then asks Miss Chu to carry him to the location. All flustered, the young warrior agrees to the request and prepares to take him with her. Under the moonlight, the duo flies quickly towards their destination on top of her sword. Upon arriving, the young man says the place looks like a horror movie and asks if it's safe. But they enter the dark forest while shadowy eyes watch them from the surrounding trees. Suddenly, two ghostly creatures appear and give a wicked laugh at the two of them. Without a second thought, the protagonist yells for the young woman to be very careful with the attack. At that moment, an aura of blue flames envelops our hero's body to protect him. Lady Chu appears with the same energy and asks if the two are okay after the commotion. The duo finds her, and the city lady asks how they got to that place so quickly. He then explains that he received her distress signal through the paper crane and came to help. But the woman says that's impossible because she didn't send him any distress signal. Shocked by the revelation, the two wonder what is really happening there then. With no time to think, the two sisters team up to fight the enemies that appear. Meanwhile, the protagonist kneels to examine one of the fallen puppets on the ground. The protagonist says that if he's not mistaken, those paper men are from the Jin family. The city lady confirms it but says there is also a sinister aura emanating from them. Our hero wonders if the Jin family has joined some cult and which sect hates them. Suddenly, the woman seems to remember something and is completely shocked by the idea. Frightened, the young man shouts something as the battle against the enemies continues. Wu Shuang then screams that the paper men are getting up again. To their astonishment, the paper creatures advance again in large numbers, seeming to be endless. Far away, a hand holds a crystal sphere that shows the trio surrounded by enemies. A hooded figure observes the scene with a wicked and satisfied smile on his face. In a dark room, the mysterious being announces to his allies that the three have finally arrived. A woman with a snake scoffs at Chuoyu for being held back by such trivial things, but a man with a demonic appearance warns her not to let her guard down against them. The hooded leader agrees and says that even with the advantage, they still need to be cautious. Another man says that with their cooperation, not even the Great Sun Dynasty would escape. Master Jin thanks him for their help and says that soon the Emperor's palace will be in their hands. A purple-haired woman then glares at two old men who seem to be on the villain's side. With a smile, she taunts them, saying they don't seem very willing to cooperate. Annoyed, the two elders deny it and say they only serve the master of the Jin family. The horned being then glares at them with contempt and disdain for their words of loyalty. He then offers a purple worm for the two to swallow and prove their loyalty. The old men get annoyed and say the family master and the sect are crossing the line. With his fan, the young noble says what Elder Ren said makes perfect sense now. Furious, one of the elders shouts at the other that he must eat the worm at once. The old man is then forced to swallow the disgusting creature with an expression of pure pain. The snake lady warns that if he has rebellious thoughts, the worms will not be merciful. The other elders of the Jin family watch the scene with expressions of disgust and fear. The noble's master tells them to hurry up because the two masters are losing patience. The hooded leader then orders his servants and the elders of the Jin family to go to the valley. The villain's two servants agree with the order and prepare to leave immediately. With no choice, the old men of the Jin family also accept the order and bow to their master. The crystal sphere on the table continues to glow as the villains watch the events unfold. In the Miasma Valley, a huge barrier of purple energy begins to crack with a loud sound. Next, the force field shatters completely, revealing the night sky above them. Our protagonist looks up shocked and shouts in surprise at the sudden breaking of the barrier. Suddenly, several skeletons with purple auras appear, and the young man warns everyone to be careful. A voice then says that the master of the Moon Palace is nothing special and that the elder was mistaken. Surprised, the young man and the city lady look up and shout, asking who is there. The members of the corpse sect and the Jin family appear, to the astonishment of our hero and the young women. The woman from the sect says they don't even need to move, as the group of people can finish them off. With a wicked smile, she says that soon they will all be her puppets and playthings forever. But suddenly an attack hits the villainess squarely, catching her completely by surprise. The protagonist then points at her and says a few words with a serious and intimidating look. With an aura of fire, he tells her to think of a more fun way to meet her end now. His eyes glow intensely as he glares at her and asks if he isn't right. Lady Chu is shocked and thinks he is even stronger than she previously imagined. The villains are astonished and ask who he is and how this is possible. Ye Fan then tells the two sisters to take care of the skeleton soldiers while he fights. The young women agree and the young man charges forward, saying he will deal with the stronger enemies. He then picks up a simple branch from the ground and says he won't need 3 moves. With the stick in hand, the young man points at the villains and says he will finish them in 1 blow. The horn being then calls our hero a brat and charges to attack him with everything he's got. The 3 enemies descend from the heavens with a cry and prepare to deliver the final blow to him. With a calm and focused expression, the protagonist prepares for the approaching confrontation. In an instant, he dodges and counter-attacks the 2 elders with incredible speed. The demon then charges with his sword, but the young man doesn't seem impressed at all. Yifan blocks the blow with the stick, and the villain is shocked to have been stopped like that. The enemy's sword shatters and one of the elders is hit squarely by a shard. With a smile, the young man asks what happened and why they aren't so arrogant anymore. He says the so-called strong ones are nothing and defeats them with a powerful purple aura. Furious, the demon calls him a scoundrel and charges for one last, desperate attack. With a branch in hand, our hero says the villain is too slow and dodges with ease. He then stops the demon's blade with just his hand, leaving him completely shocked. The horn being is stunned as he didn't expect the young man to be so strong and skilled. Without giving the enemy time to react, Yifan hits him with a powerful punch to the stomach. A powerful golden energy then envelops the young man's body as he prepares to attack. With the force of the blow, the villain is thrown far away, unable to defend against the impact. With a furious shout, our hero charges forward to deliver the final blow and finish the enemy. A huge wave of golden energy is released, destroying everything in its path with power. The villain wonders how the young man executed a technique that he himself could never use. Lady Chu watches him and thinks his strength is definitely not just from the nascent soul realm. Impressed, she calls him a god upon seeing the trail of destruction his attack left behind. Far away, one of the Jin family elders spits blood due to the force of the blow. She laments not being able to dodge in time and being grazed by the sword's energy. However, the woman realizes the other elder was hit head-on and couldn't survive. Terrified by the young man's power, the elder decides she needs to flee that place as quickly as possible. But the 2 sisters appear and block her escape, leaving the villainess completely cornered. Lady Chu then questions her about someone named Wu Ji and promises to spare her life if she talks. Scared, the elder agrees to talk and prepares to tell everything she knows on the matter. But suddenly, the woman screams in despair that she has been poisoned by someone who wants her gone. The 3 observe the scene and Lady Chu comments on the enemy's brutal methods. The hooded figure says the young man is a troublemaker, and that not even he would handle the situation like that. The mysterious being then reports to the patriarch of the Jin family, who watches him from his throne. The patriarch complains that the enemy hid his strength and is stronger than he imagined. The hooded man then says the patriarch needs to advance to the nascent soul realm soon. He tells the leader to devour more energy and crush Yifan because every sacrifice is worth it. The patriarch then remains silent, seemingly considering the plan proposed to him. With a punch on the table and a black mask, he shouts, catching everyone's attention in the room. One of the elders is startled, and the patriarch orders him to prepare the blood sacrifice. But the old man says that if they listen to Master Wu, the Jin family will no longer exist in the world. The leader says even if he ascends, he fears the family won't recover and orders the sacrifice. The old elder seems terrified by the order but ends up agreeing to prepare the sacrifice. Far away, our hero and the two sisters fly together on their swords through a forest. The protagonist then checks his system and realizes his life expectancy has indeed decreased. He thinks that without Nine to mock him, everything feels strange, and he misses the girl. Terrified by this idea, the young man wonders why he's thinking this and if he's become a masochist. Just then, Wushuang asks if he's okay, but the young man plays it off, saying it's nothing. The city lady thinks that even with his strength, the young man doesn't have an annoying arrogance. She then starts to think it would be nice if her sister could be with the young man. With a smile, our hero turns and thanks Lady Chu for saving him before. The woman looks back at him with a slightly embarrassed expression at the thanks. She then says she also thanks Elder Yi for helping at various times. The young woman thinks that as a swordswoman, she shouldn't have desires and should dedicate herself only to the sword. She also says she should be happy for her sister's friendship with Elder Yi. But the woman wonders why she is feeling something strange in her chest. The scene then takes us to the night sky, where a red moon shines brightly. In a dark room, a woman hums mysteriously, seeming to be relaxed. The sect master then asks about the transformation, and the servant says the sacrifice has been made. He reveals that the sect master has already sacrificed hundreds of people from the Jin family. With that, his cultivation advanced to the nascent soul realm, but he turned into a monster without sanity. The woman thinks it's better for him to be a beast, and the master says the plan was not in vain. The leader scoffs at Jin Yang for handing over the family, and the plan went well thanks to him. With a wicked smile, he thinks that dominating the entire Hezo region is getting closer and closer. Back to our hero and the young women, they arrive in a red valley full of bones. The place is frightening, with several giant ribs and skulls scattered all over the ground. Wu Shuang covers her nose in disgust and didn't expect the corpse cult to be there. The young man says it's no wonder the cult is full of lunatics, as living there causes illnesses. Suddenly, Lady Chu is caught by surprise by red tentacles coming out of the ground. Frightened, the young woman screams and warns our hero and Wu Shuang to be careful of the ambush. They then see a body, and the woman wonders if that is the chief of the Jin family elders. Yifan is shocked and wonders why the cult and the Jin family would be taking each other out there. The city lady then asks Senior Yi to investigate what is happening there. Without a second thought, the young man activates his divine eye and is enveloped in a golden aura. He then releases a powerful wave of energy to scan the entire surrounding area. With his vision, he can see a red-haired figure moving with speed. Our hero notices that the creature has a monstrous and frightening appearance. With a wicked smile and red eyes, the monster stares back at our protagonist. Terrified, the young man wonders what kind of bizarre creature that is in front of him. He recognizes the monster's clothes and warns Wushuang that it is the noble Jin Yang. Surrounded by a purple aura, the creature charges towards them with a look of hatred. Without hesitation, the monster attacks the young warrior with a powerful, energy-filled punch. Lady Chu then yells for her sister to be careful as the two prepare to fight. The creature manages to stop both swords with just its hands, surprising the young women. With its strength, the villain throws both of them back without any difficulty in the fight. The monster then lets out a wicked laugh, seeming to be enjoying the fight. The city lady is shocked because the creature broke her sword with the palm of its hand. The villain then charges to attack the woman, who screams in fear at its approach. But our hero appears and kicks the monster, asking why it's screaming. With the force of the kick, the creature is thrown far away and enveloped in purple energy. The villain then screams in pain and anger for being hit like that by the young man. Even injured, the monster remains standing and glares at our hero with a look of pure hatred. The young man is surprised because he used his maximum power and expected the enemy to be done for already. With a roar, the creature throws itself on the ground like an animal and sticks its tongue out at him. Yifan then tells Lady Chu to lure the monster closer because he has a plan. The young man activates his divine eye again, and a blue energy of lightning appears on his body. He realizes the villain's soul is merging with the void and wonders how that happened. With an arrogant roar, the creature charges to attack our hero with all its might. But the young man says that to tame a beast, you need a rope, and creates energy rings. The monster is then hit squarely by the blue energy rings that completely surround it. The creature is then completely trapped by the young man's technique, unable to move. The protagonist asks the young woman if she knows what is happening with the villain's state. The woman replies that she doesn't know but suggests taking him to the palace to find out what happened. She then tells her sister they need to tie up the monster with a powerful magic weapon. With a smile, Lady Chu prepares to return to the palace with her companions. But suddenly, her sister attacks her from behind with a dagger, to the surprise of the blue-haired woman. Wushuang, now with red eyes, reveals she is being controlled by an evil power. A female figure appears and scoffs at the beautiful scene of two sisters fighting each other in the valley. Shocked by the twist, our hero wonders what is suddenly happening there. The villainess then approaches and holds the young woman, who is being controlled by her dark power. The city lady screams her sister's name, desperate to see her being used like that. With a wicked smile, the enemy says that this is a very beautiful scene to watch. Our protagonist then recognizes the technique as the death dreams of the corpse cult. Furious, the older sister charges with her sword and yells for the villainess to release her sister immediately. However, the woman scoffs at the swordswoman and says her power cannot harm her at all. She then creates a purple energy barrier and calls the two of them struggling little mice. Suddenly, a huge gate rises from the ground, and the young man and woman find themselves surrounded by walls. Our hero then realizes they have fallen into a trap and curses the situation. From atop the wall, the villains observe the two with a wicked and contemptuous laugh. The hooded leader then asks if the two guests are satisfied with his hospitality. Angrily, the woman shouts for him to return Wushuang and promises the palace will spare him. But the villain scoffs at her and tells Master Shu to look at her own situation before making threats. Next, several hooded soldiers appear and surround the warrior, ready to attack. Our hero then tells the woman to back away and holds her to protect her from danger. He takes the sword from her hand and prepares for the combat that is about to begin. The young man says he will take care of the enemies and positions himself in front of the young woman to fight. With a determined look, he charges to face the soldiers and tells them to face him. In an instant, he defeats several of the enemies with his sword without any difficulty. The soldiers are shocked by his strength and wonder what kind of monster he is. The villainess then prepares to use her power and sends her servants to attack the protagonist. The woman's pink energy envelopes the soldiers, who prepare to fight with more strength. With glowing eyes and a roar, the servants charge at our hero with everything they've got. With a furious shout, our hero tells the enemies to get out of the way and charges forward with full force. He then leaps towards the villainess and attacks her directly with his powerful sword. The woman blocks the blow with a smile and seems unconcerned by the young man's attack. She taunts him, saying he can't catch her because she is a soul cultivator. The young man is startled as his attack passes through her body without causing any damage. He then realizes the enemy has no physical form and used a special technique. The city lady screams and confirms that the woman is indeed a soul cultivator. She asks the senior to find the villainess's physical body, as that's the only way they can defeat her. The enemy praises the young man's skills and calls him a little mouse for being so persistent. At that moment, Yifan understands that the woman's physical body is linked to Wushuang's. With a smile, the villainess asks if he has the courage to defeat her even knowing this. She then orders the controlled young woman to advance and finish off her own sister. Our hero yells for the older one to be careful as the girl is coming after her. But suddenly, chains emerge from the ground and trap the protagonist's body by surprise. The chains completely immobilize him, and the young man is left wondering what happened. The hooded leader then attacks the young man with a powerful blast of golden energy. A huge explosion occurs on the spot, raising a large cloud of dust and debris. The villain then tells Yifan to stop pretending and show his true abilities at once. With a golden aura, the young man says a tiger doesn't show its strength to a sick cat. The enemy glares at him and says he will soon find out if he's a sick cat or not. Meanwhile, the city lady fights with her sister and calls her shameless for the attack. She realizes the demon's physical body is indeed linked to Wushuang's. Tired, the woman says she was already injured in a surprise attack and won't last much longer. The villainess and the controlled young woman then attack the warrior together with overwhelming power. With the force of the blow, the young woman is thrown to the ground and is left with no strength to continue fighting. The enemy then scoffs at the woman for running so much and choosing a good tone for herself. Next, the villainess orders the controlled young woman to deliver the final blow to her dear sister. But Lady Chu smiles and says she finally managed to lure the enemy into her trap. A magic circle appears on the ground and traps the villainess, who wonders how she fell into her own trap. Furious, the woman screams because her cultivation was suppressed by the cave the warrior used. With a wicked smile, the woman says it would be a good idea to bury the villainess with her before she perishes. Suddenly, the ceiling of the place begins to collapse, and the two fall along with the debris. Furious, the enemy screams and calls the city lady a madwoman for her attitude. The warrior then charges with her sword and says it's time to free her sister from control. Without hesitation, the young woman lands a direct blow on the villainess who is linked to her sister's body. With the force of the attack, the enemy spits blood and is severely injured by the blow. Even wounded, Lady Chu smiles, seeming satisfied with the outcome of the fight. With that, the three continue to fall amidst the debris of the destroyed location. Our protagonist hears the loud noise and wonders what that sudden commotion was. Just then, the hooded villain takes the chance and attacks the distracted young man. The enemy taunts him for being distracted and says now only the two of them are left to fight. The young man then finds himself surrounded by several clones and has to fight them all at once. He realizes he'll be at a disadvantage and decides to use his system to turn the tables. But the young man is startled to see he's suddenly lost a lot of his lifespan and doesn't understand. Furious, he complains that he worked hard to save his life and that the system is driving him crazy. Knight appears and explains that he didn't activate the prepayment function and the cost was doubled. As the girl asks if he wants to activate the function, the villain charges to attack again. Our hero screams that the enemy is right in front of him and tells the girl to activate the function. With a huge blast of purple energy, he screams Nine's name and vows he will not forgive her. The young man then glares at the enemy and says he's as annoying as a fly all the time. With a determined look, our protagonist says it's time to put an end to this. Without wasting time, he activates one of the functions on his system screen to get stronger. Surrounded by a golden aura, he says few can withstand his blow, and the villain is one of them. With a confident smile, the young man challenges him to see if he can take his punch. The enemy calls him an arrogant brat and charges with a punch of purple energy. The two blows collide and a huge wave of energy explodes in all directions. With the force of the impact, the villain is thrown backward, unable to defend against the power. Our hero then asks the enemy if he's okay after taking the hit. He then charges forward and lands another powerful punch on the villain, who can't react. The enemy then coughs in pain, seeming to be badly injured from the young man's attacks. Our hero then jumps to the ground where the enemy fell from the impact of the blow. He steps on the villain and asks how it feels to get punched, but the man laughs. The enemy says that in 1,000 years, he's only seen eyes like the young man's twice in his life. With a smile, he reveals that one person is the young man, and the other is the immortal emperor. Shocked by the revelation, the protagonist demands that the villain explain what is happening. But the enemy attacks him with purple energy, and the young man defends himself with his sword. The villain then prepares to use one of his techniques with a wicked smile on his face. He grabs one of his servants and begins to suck the man's life force, who screams. Without any mercy, the enemy continues to drain the life of his own subordinate. With that, the servant's body turns into a skeleton and dissolves into ashes in the air. The villain says he feels much better now, and our hero glares at him with disgust. The enemy asks why the young man has that look on his face and says the two of them are the same. Confused by the villain's words, the young man asks what he means by that. Without answering, the hooded man charges to attack the protagonist once more. Far away, young Wushuang helps her sister climb a cliff to save themselves. With a relieved smile, the girl says her sister has finally managed to wake up. The older one explains that her consciousness returned, and she saved herself with her sword. The two then look down and wonder what is happening in the fight. Suddenly, the young woman points and says the villainess didn't perish and is flying like butterflies. The older sister realizes the enemy is heading towards our hero. Unable to help, she says that now all they can do is hope the Sectmaster arrives. With a talisman in hand, the woman prays that Yifan will be okay and safe. Our protagonist then unleashes a powerful blue energy attack against the villain. Even injured, the enemy manages to withstand the blow and glares at the young man with hatred. The young man taunts him and asks what's wrong and why he doesn't continue to fight. The villain praises the young man's skill and says he is the same man from 1,000 years ago. The scene then shows us an imposing figure with blue hair who appears to be an emperor. The enemy then laments not having made any progress in the last 1,000 years of his life. Confused, the protagonist notices something strange and bright approaching him. Suddenly, a cloud of red butterflies surrounds the young man, who is startled by the scene. He wonders if those are red butterflies and doesn't understand what is happening. The villainess then bows to the hooded master and says her name is Wu Ji. With a cold look, the man orders the woman to offer everything to him without hesitation. She then agrees with the order and is enveloped by a powerful pink energy from the master. The villain then asks the butterflies to help him destroy this world once and for all. With that, a cloud of butterflies surrounds him, and he prepares for his transformation. The enemy then transforms into a winged and monstrous creature to fight. Our protagonist is terrified and wonders if the boss has a second power phase. Nine then appears and scoffs at the young man for sweating so much in front of the enemy. Desperate, the young man hugs her and asks the little administrator to help him in the fight. But she says she can't help because the enemy hasn't fully transformed yet. The girl warns him to defeat him quickly, and he asks her to give him some buffs. The young man complains that other systems help their hosts and asks why she doesn't. Annoyed, he curses the little administrator for only giving him cultivation points. The monster then charges, and our hero prepares to fight, even at a disadvantage. With a look of hatred and determination, the young man decides he will face the enemy. Fearlessly, he charges into combat and dares to face the creature once more. The two then exchange a powerful punch, and a large wave of energy spreads out. The villain scoffs at the young man's strength and asks if he didn't eat to be so weak. Our hero is shocked because he used the same strength he used to fight the dragon. But the monster says that kind of power can't hurt it and attacks him again. With the force of the blow, the young man is thrown far away and rolls on the ground from the impact. He is then thrown with full force against a rock wall and is left lying there. Disappointed, the young man laments and says it seems this is all he can do. Even injured, he gets up and says he doesn't want to ooze so much and prepares to fight. With a serious look, the two face each other up close, ready for the next attack. Our hero then grabs the monster's wings with all his might to immobilize it. With a furious shout, the young man starts pulling the creature's wings without any mercy. The monster is startled and asks how the young man is suddenly getting stronger and stronger. The creature grinds its teeth in pain and hatred as its wings are torn off by the young man. The young man glares at the monster with bright eyes and says it really underestimated him. He then dodges a purple energy attack that comes towards him with speed. The winged creature fires a powerful energy beam with its ring-shaped weapon. Our hero is hit squarely by the blow and is thrown far away with absurd force. The purple energy attack completely engulfs him, creating a huge explosion on the spot. But the young man appears above the enemy and hits it with a powerful blow to the head. With a serious look, he asks the fallen creature if it has any last words. The monster then begs not to be ended and offers to tell him all its secrets. Our protagonist glares at it and asks if it has finished saying what it wanted to. The creature's body then explodes into a red silhouette, leaving no trace. The young man says he has many chances to seek the truth and throws away the villain's remains. With a cold look, he says the enemy will perish along with its heretical sect. He then releases a golden aura for all the innocents who were harmed. An intense light envelopes his body as he prepares to release his power. With that, a huge explosion of golden energy destroys everything around with force. After a while, the young man lands on the ground, seeming relieved that the fight is over. With a cute face, he celebrates, saying that everything is finally over there. But suddenly, an old man hidden behind a rock observes the scene, shocked. The two sisters appear and call for Senior Yi, who is happy to see them well. The protagonist notices something in the grass and says he didn't expect any survivors. With a smile, he releases his golden energy and yells for the person to come out of there. The old man from before is then pulled from his hiding spot by our hero's force. The young man holds him and demands to know who he is, but the man stammers in fear. The trio then walks through the destroyed valley as the sky returns to normal. Our hero glares at the prisoner and asks again who he is and what he's doing there. The sisters then recognize the man as Dan Feng, the master of the noble Jin Yang. Terrified, the old man thinks it will end badly if they find out he's one of the villains. He then starts to make up a sad story about his family to get away with it. But the young man interrupts him and offers to spare his life for information about the enemies. The man says that Wu Ji followed an emperor with a technique of sacrificing life for power. Our hero then realizes the description is similar to the ability Nine gave him. Suddenly, Nine appears with her scythe and glares at him with a dark and frightening look. With a wicked smile, the little administrator asks if he forgot something. Lady Chu says her stock of elixirs went to the senior, but that the old man has many. The young man then approaches and points at the man with a not-so-friendly expression. With a wicked smile, he and Nine prepare to take all the old man's elixirs. Terrified, the man asks what they are going to do as he is enveloped by a dark aura. A scream of despair echoes through the Red Valley, which now seems calmer. Our protagonist celebrates for having gotten so many elixirs to profit from later. He then decides to see the effectiveness of the items and takes one to try right away. Upon eating it, the young man feels an immense power flowing through his entire body suddenly. He then checks the system and sees his life is at negative 203 years. Shocked, he realizes the elixir only adds 1 year of life and doesn't know what to do. But he says it's not a big problem because with the quantity, he can win in the end. An hour later, the young man is lying down and complains that he can't eat anymore. The city lady then invites him to the palace and offers a longevity treasure. Excited by the offer, he holds her and says he won't refuse since the sect was destroyed. But suddenly a voice interrupts him, saying that's not necessary and that they came to get him. The rabbit-eared boy appears on a ship and asks if they saw his message. He says the sect master also came along and asks them to get on board quickly. The old prisoner then takes the chance and thinks about escaping while they are distracted. But the boy recognizes him as the thief who stole his elixir recipe a while ago. With a rabbit tail, the young man traps the old man, who screams in terror at the attack. The boy then holds him and invites him for a good chat to settle the score. He then invites Master Yi to talk with the leader of the Heavenly Moon Palace. The scene then takes us to the large and imposing ship floating in the starry sky. Our hero walks through the ship and asks Lady Chu who the palace master is. She explains that the master is the #1 person on the continent and very talented, by the way. Next, a man with angel wings and a golden aura appears, showing his power. Impressed by the master's appearance, our protagonist finds him very powerful. A muscular man with blonde hair observes the trio and says they have finally arrived. With sunglasses on, he glares at them with a serious and slightly intimidating expression. He then introduces himself as Wu Tinyu and invites the young man to sit next to him. Shocked by the master's manner, the young man thinks the Hangzhou continent is done for. The man offers some of his secret cultivation techniques to our hero. The protagonist gets embarrassed while Lady Chu coves to cover up the situation. The master then asks if he is interested in the Kunlun branch of immortality. The young women are startled because that is one of the sect's treasures, and the young man wonders what it is. The man then starts listing several powerful treasures and artifacts from that place. He says that 1,000 years ago, 4 companions decided to pacify the world's wars. The 4 then went through many difficulties to get what they wanted. In the end, they obtained the 3 books of the Emperor and became the strongest in the world. With that, they finally got what they wanted and founded the Heavenly Palace. With a smile, the master asks if the young man is fascinated by the palace after the story. But the young man says Lady Chu had already invited him to the palace with her. The man then congratulates him and tells him to rest well, as he won't bother him anymore. Our protagonist then goes to his room to rest after so much chaos. The young man then thinks he still doesn't know what to do and seems a bit lost. He remembers that the Heavenly Palace was destroyed like the moon in the water a long time ago. The scene then takes us to the grand and imposing Heavenly Moon Palace, which shines at night. Impressed by the beauty of the place, he finds it magnificent and worthy of being number one. Suddenly, the rabbit-eared boy greets a woman with pink hair and a mask. The young woman then appears, and our hero is enchanted, calling her a fairy with hearts in his eyes. She then approaches and introduces herself to the young man, who must be Yi-fan, the guest of honor. With a smile, the woman says she has finally managed to find him and looks at him up close. The young man and the two sisters are shocked and embarrassed by the newcomer's attitude. Lady Chu asks why the woman is there, as she usually stays in the prayer pavilion. She explains that the emperor's palace has descended and most of the masters have gone to seek opportunities. With that, she says goodbye and invites our hero to talk alone about some things. The boy finds the woman's attitude strange, and she just laughs, saying it's probably nothing. The woman pulls him, and he asks what her purpose is with that attitude. The masked young woman then looks at him with a serious and slightly mysterious expression. With a smile on her lips, she reveals that all of this is linked to an ancient prophecy. She then says she believes the young man is the chosen one, and that she will help him with everything. Confused by the revelation, our hero asks the woman what the heavens are. But without answering, the young woman turns and leaves, leaving the young man behind alone. Annoyed, he complains if it's become a trend for people to be mysterious and not finish their sentences. Disoriented by the situation, the young man starts to scream desperately for Nine's name. The little system administrator then appears and asks her master what happened. He questions her about the woman and if she knows anything, but the girl gets embarrassed. Nine tells him not to delve too deep into the matter, as they need to get out of there soon. With a sincere look, she promises she will never hurt him, and the young man agrees with her. Night falls over the grand and imposing heavenly moon palace with its floating islands. From one of the pavilions, a soft and calm music begins to echo throughout the environment. Later, our hero drinks with the palace master while a young woman performs. Not caring much about the situation, the young man continues to drink calmly at the table. Suddenly, one of the master's subordinates approaches and seems a little worried. The man reports that a terrible flower has appeared and asks what they should do now. With a serious look, the palace master tells the servant to go with him to take a look. But he makes up an excuse, saying he drank too much and needs to step out to use the restroom. Nine appears and warns the young man to leave quickly, because that is not a place for him to get involved in. Our hero thinks he has helped the palace many times, and that he has done his best for today. He then remembers several women dancing and wonders about what Nine said. The young man then goes for a walk and wonders about the secret the woman mentioned. Suddenly, he realizes the place is not the palace but a giant and strange labyrinth. He turns around scared and wonders who is there but recognizes the rabbit-eared boy. His friend then appears with his eyes closed, seemingly in some kind of trance. The scene shows us one of the labyrinth's buildings where our protagonist is now trapped. The young man then wonders where the palace master is and what is happening there. Suddenly, he hears some guards commenting on another passing and becomes alert. Our hero then approaches and asks one of the guards what is happening. The man explains that another person has perished and that other incidents have already been reported. The young man then says he is looking for Master Wu, and one of the guards offers to take him. He then arrives at a place with a huge crowd gathered, looking very concerned. Impatient, our protagonist starts shouting and pushing people to clear a path. With the help of some guards, he finally manages to get through the crowd and to the front. With a serious look, the young man realizes something terrible has happened in that place. He then sees a body on the ground with a strange tree of red flowers growing from it. Master Wu appears and reveals with a dark look that this is already the 9th victim. The crowd wonders if they were targeted by evil spirits, and if it's the 9th time this month. Our hero then thinks he is still young and doesn't want to meet his end in that strange way. He glares at the body and says that type of passing is very bizarre and frightening. The palace master then tells everyone to stop spreading rumors, and that they will be punished. With a serious look, he turns to the young man and asks him to do something important. The man says he heard the young man used his technique to cure Wu Shuang of a poison. With a smile, he offers the immortal branch of Kunlun as a gift for his help. Our protagonist gets a dark look and says the master's request is too much. But with a smile, he shakes the man's hand and says he simply can't refuse. With his eyes glowing gold, he prepares to use his investigation ability. He realizes the person's life force was transferred to the flowers that bloomed. The master then asks if the victim's life force is really in the flowers, and he confirms it. The man says he's not good with this kind of thing and asks Brother Yi to go with him. He explains that the rabbit-eared boy can help as he has vast knowledge. The two then show the flower to the boy and ask what he thinks of the item. With a serious look, the little elder confirms that the flower is not from the Hezo region. He says the flower looks like those from the Abyss of Darkness but with some differences. But the young man states that with the appearance of the palace, this must be the work of outsiders. Our hero then seems a bit thoughtful, but the little elder interrupts him. The boy says he doesn't know anything else and suggests he ask the masked woman to read his fortune. Without saying another word, he says goodbye and leaves, leaving the young man with his thoughts. The rabbit-eared boy remains silent, seeming to be hiding something. The palace master then asks Brother Yi to ask the woman what he needs. Our hero wonders if astrology is reliable and hopes it's not a scam. He then enters the woman's room and greets her with a smile on his face. The young woman says she was waiting for him and invites him to sit down to talk. She reveals she knows the reason for his visit even without having used the star map. But the woman says that for the sake of the palace, she is willing to do it one more time. She then releases a powerful golden energy and prepares to use her technique. Our protagonist is then caught in the bright light and tries to shield himself with his hands. Surrounded by the energy, he finds himself amidst a scenery of stars and distant planets. The woman then activates the star map, and a huge sphere of golden energy appears in the sky. Suddenly, the young man finds himself in a vision of the future where everyone is gone and everything is destroyed. Terrified by the scene, the young man screams no and can't believe what he's seeing. In an instant, he returns to normal and wonders if he managed to return to the present. The woman explains that the star map reveals the future, but that everyone can change their destiny. She says she will analyze the revelations again and asks the young man to wait another day. With no choice, our protagonist agrees to the request and waits for more information. Outside the room, Nine appears, and the young man walks beside her, looking thoughtful. Annoyed, the little administrator shouts that the palace is acting strange and he doesn't see it. But the young man says he has already received payment and doesn't want to look like a coward now. The girl then bites him and warns him not to beg for help if he's about to perish. With a smile, he holds her and says he will absorb the life from the immortal branch to fight. With a pat on her head, our hero says it's better if she behaves as he said. The next day, he thinks the development of events has exceeded his imagination. The rabbit-eared boy is accused of harming the disciples and is taken to the hall. Our hero and the young women arrive at the location and say there must be some misunderstanding. Lady Chu then turns to the master and says he knows more about the matter. The woman asks the little elder to say something, but he remains silent. The master then asks the boy what is happening, and he looks back at him. With a cold look, the young man confesses that he was the one who placed the seeds in the disciples. The palace master then gets annoyed and tells the guards to stop the commotion. He then orders them to take the boy to prison and to inform the other masters. Even while being arrested, the young man smiles mysteriously and says no more words. Lady Chu then begs the masked woman to help the boy explain himself. But she apologizes and says she can do nothing to help in the situation. The young woman reveals that the vision of the future she had showed the little elder harming everyone. We then see the rabbit-eared boy amidst several fallen disciples on the ground. Shocked by the revelation, the woman covers her mouth, unable to believe what she heard.